What Twilight scene made you the most emotional? And what moment on set made Kristen Stewart say,
I was so transcendently weird that day?
Number 1. There was real magic in the air that day. The wedding scene was the last part filmed for Breaking Dawn Part 1, and Kristen Stewart said that she could really feel the series coming to its end. Not only that, but being a fan of the books, she said she got oddly emotional seeing the scene come together.
I felt good that day.
Kristen was apparently so excited that she wanted to run down the aisle, saying that she was literally pulling away from Billy Burke.
You ready?
Even Robert Pattinson noticed, telling Entertainment Weekly, I could see her getting sort of emotionally affected by it, and I almost didn't want to stay at the end of the aisle. I wanted to go down and say, stop being so ridiculous. Number 2. We almost didn't get to see Robert as Edward. Twilight director Catherine Hardwick admitted that she wasn't entirely sold on Robert when he arrived at auditions, sharing that Rob walked in and he had his hair dyed black for some play with these wacky bangs, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's see how this goes. It was Rob's chemistry with Kristen that changed Hardwick's mind.
Well, I just want to try one thing.
The two played out the kissing scene on Hardwick's bed, and according to her, Rob was so into it, he fell off the bed. Afterwards, Kristen insisted that Robert be the one to perform opposite her as Edward, and even Hardwick commented, I could tell they had a lot of chemistry.
So the lion fell in love with the lamb.
Number 3. Taylor Lautner's shirtless scenes weren't nearly as fun for him as they were for us, especially when it came to filming his breakup scene in the rain for New Moon. Taylor admitted that he struggled with the cold. Playing werewolf Jacob Black, Taylor wasn't allowed to show any response to the cold water he was drenched with from an on-set rain tower, and although it only took them about 4 minutes to film the scene, he had to redo it several times throughout the day. To push through, he had to take myself to another world, so during the scene, I wasn't sitting there shivering. Between takes, he could take advantage of the on-set blankets and heater, but only for about 2 minutes before he had to return. Number 4. You kind of have to feel bad for her. Kristen Stewart had food poisoning the day she shot the tent scene for Eclipse. Luckily, all she really had to do was lie there shivering anyway. But Stephanie Meyer, who was visiting the set that day, revealed that Kristen was so sick between takes. Taylor Lautner played the hero that day, grabbing her a garbage can in case she needed to throw up.
Survival 101.
The Twilight writer recalled that everybody was taking care of her and everything, but it was a hard day. She expressed sympathy for what the leading lady had to go through, saying that Kristen's job was so hard as she had to perform shivering all while feeling like she needed to throw up. Number 5. You might remember this scene for how intense it got. Robert Pattinson remembers it for different reasons. He revealed in an interview with The Independent, the hardest scene to film was probably the birth scene in Breaking Dawn Part 1, mainly because it was hilarious and it was supposed to be really serious. He admitted once at a Comic-Con panel that he thought the scene goes very far, which might explain what he found so funny, but he also added that there was no other way to do it. Apparently, he was laughing so hard that he couldn't stop tears from falling, adding that, it looks like I'm crying in the thing. He might have been able to use those tears to his advantage, but playing Edward Cullen, he was not supposed to be able to cry as a vampire. Number 6. Just like any family, the Cullens didn't always get along. Ashley Greene revealed in an interview with People that there were plenty of ups and downs and some drama between the cast on set. As she pointed out, 5 years is a long time to spend together without any tiffs, though she'd add that many of the actors had been in their 20s at the time. So you can imagine who you were in your 20s versus who you are now. Although she didn't give many details, one scuffle we are aware of was between her and Nikki Reed. When the two were reunited on Ashley Greene's podcast, she expressed that, Nikki and I went back and forth where we were cool, and then we didn't want anything to do with each other, and then we were cool again. Number 7. Being a star isn't as glamorous as you might think. Although our 3 leads were all close when filming began, Kristen Stewart would state in an interview that, on the Twilight sets towards the end, I found that people didn't really talk to us anymore. She said that it felt as though someone had told the rest of the cast to avoid her unless they had a reason to approach, going on to say, it's like, now you are just completely isolating me, so thanks. But the worst part about it for her was that the rest of the cast might think she was the one asking to be left alone, which is like, do not represent me, ever. Overall, she summarized the experience by saying that it was just really annoying. Number 8. They seemed like good friends. While filming the first Twilight movie, it was clear that Kristen Stewart and Nikki Reed had grown close, with Nikki even sharing that Kristen and I are best friends. Yet when it came time to film Eclipse, feelings had obviously changed. While discussing her co-star, Nikki admitted that they had been close in the beginning, but that success had changed the dynamic. We're not all best friends, and we're not all going to hang out together after the final movie is done.
I don't understand what I did to make you hate me so much.
This statement only fueled fan rumors that Robert Pattinson had driven a wedge between the two friends, with some even suggesting that they may have been involved in an on-set love triangle, although Nikki Reed has denied ever dating Robert Pattinson. Number 9. It had to end eventually. Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart shot their final scene for Breaking Dawn Part 2 together, but it was far from a special moment. Rather, Robert would later admit that he felt a little weird getting so emotional over the end when there was only the two of them there.
And then they just end it, and it's like, well, okay, well, that's that.
He and Kristen bid their awkward goodbyes, but both of them knew that they'd be seeing each other again only 4 months later for the press release. Robert went on to say that he figured the end of their tour would make for a harder goodbye.
I'm really, really curious what it's going to be like the last day of this tour.
Number 10. He played the lone wolf to the end. Taylor Lautner had a hard time letting go of the Twilight franchise. And to make matters worse, he didn't even have a chance to give a proper goodbye to his co-stars. In an interview, Taylor revealed that, "My last day of shooting, I was by myself, so that was kind of sad." Although his second to last day was spent shooting a scene with Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart. He admitted that it was a little emotional seeing his co-stars on set for the last time, emphasizing that it was tough for us because we had been playing these characters for so long and spending so much time together for so long. The Twilight franchise was not an easy filming process. Which emotional behind-the-scenes story surprised you the most? We'd love to hear your opinions, so make them heard down in the comments.